In terms of astrological reading, many people will understand the various main schools of doctrines. Basically, they are of the 八字、紫微斗数、奇门遁甲、梅花易数, etc. All these are very popular astrological methods, especially in ancient China. And within these various systems of astrological analysis, one of the most interesting or easy to learn method of astrological analysis is 紫微斗数, I would say. Today, I will teach you how to carry out practical analysis using 紫微斗数 to make forecasts for the events that may take place within your life. 紫微斗数 is very straightforward because you don't really have to be very philosophical in terms of judging what stars represents what events. Unlike 八字, 八字 can be a little bit more philosophical than 紫微斗数 because 八字 would often require you to determine the strength of the heavenly stem of the day in which you are born in. But that is really the most difficult part because how are you going to gauge? Sometimes the chart, the birth chart can be so balanced that you are not able to accurately determine if it is a chart that need to be supplemented or a chart that need to have their day master strength suppressed. Because in terms of Bach reading, all right, some of the heavenly stems and of the branches sometimes can be so balanced in a way you are having all the five elements within the chart, making it a very favorable kind of or auspicious kind of birth chart. So how are you able to find out your 喜用神? 喜用神 in Chinese means the factors that will give you positive effects or negative effects, all right, practically speaking. Whereas in 紫微斗数, it's not the case. You don't have to carry out any form of philosophical determination. Basically, when a star appear in certain domains or palaces within your 紫微斗数 birth chart, it will directly give you a meaning as to what will happen. Okay, so before I proceed with today's teaching, perhaps I will first share the screen, all right? And with visual aids, I will be able to perform this lesson better. Right, so just give me a moment to make sure that everything is in a good order. Okay, because technical issue is one of the things that I afraid I scared of the most. Okay, sometimes it is no matter how well you prepare your slides or whatever, when technical issues happen, right, there's nothing you can do to overcome it. Okay, anyway, so I have successfully shared my slide. Just to give you an introduction to a course that I will be running very soon in the month of May, which is called the 紫微斗数 Practical Analysis course. Of course, it will go very in depth into the it will go very in depth into the teaching of 紫微斗数, and this will allow you to carry out 紫微斗数 reading for your own self independently without the need to engage anyone or when you experience any problems or issues in life, you can really exactly just go ahead and look at your own birth chart and then come up with a conclusion as to what you should do in order to improve the situations in your life. So before I proceed, perhaps I will also take a look at some of the comments. Thank you very much, as always, Ms. Maka, for watching for my live. And Mr. Jerry, also from Australia. Thank you very much for joining. And Wallace from France, thank you very much for being here tonight. And Angie from Singapore, thank you for watching my live. And Jennifer, my student, also, thank you for being here. And Mr. Puma Konchan. All right, so thank you for all being here tonight. So without further ado, let's go straight into what is a 紫微斗数 birth chart. A 紫微斗数 birth chart is basically very simple to read. Okay, let's say I will just anyhow open a birth chart. This person, all right, which is having a birth chart that is having 他能武曲 at his or at her life domain. All right. So basically, right, you just immediately tell you certain things about this person. Having the star 他能 within the life domain would mean that that person is very attractive, very good in his or her socializing skills. And sometimes this also will bring a lot of peach blossom into her life, means that she will have a lot of admirers, a lot of guys liking her. And additionally, pairing with Wu Qi is a star that is indicative of financial success. Therefore, if you have the star Wu Qi within your wealth domain, actually you will be capable of achieving very great wealth in life, especially if it is pairing with other positive stars or positive catalyst star within your wealth domain, such as, for example, Hua Lu is a wealth enhancing star. In terms of 紫微斗数, we have the 4 catalyst stars, namely the Hua Quan, Hua Lu, Hua Ji, and Hua Ke. And just remember, Hua Ji is usually a star that is negative, whereas Hua Lu, Hua Quan, Hua Ke usually will point to positive events occurring in your life. And if you are able to find these positive stars falling into your life domain or your wealth domain, for instance, then usually it is an indication of receiving great wealth. Of course, you can also look at the decade trends and the yearly trends when they overlap with your original chart. For example, in this case, this person is currently going through a decade trend having Hua Ke within her life domain. Hua Ke is an indication of positive social relationship, good positive recognition from people or reputation. So this person doing this decade trend that she's in will be able to enjoy positive for example, social relationship, marriage usually, and also we will achieve a very great reputation or become very famous in her career. And looking at her children's domain, there's actually a Hua Quan, right, pairing with Wu Qi and Ta Nan. Hua Quan means usually positive development, likewise. And interestingly, this person have actually given birth to a son during this period of time. In terms of the 紫微斗数 study, various stars actually represents different gender. Okay, so by looking at the various genders of the stars, right, we are actually able to determine, for example, what is the gender of the child. Okay, for example, stars such as Taiyang represents the male gender, female gender are represented by Taiyin. So 紫微斗数 is very straightforward. Just look at your chart, what stars are within which domain, and you'll be able to come out with a conclusion as to what is going to happen. Likewise, we can look at this person yearly, that yearly trend, or which is the year 2023. Yearly trend is called 流年 in Chinese. 流年 means the current year. So looking at her current development, she is actually having this, let's say, having this Hua Lu right at her yearly decade, yearly destiny domain overlapping with the wealth domain. This is a positive indication of financial achievement. So this is actually one of my clients, and she's also having a kind of positive developments in her life right now in terms of career, because she's a dentist and she has just opened a new clinic this year 2023. So 紫微斗数 is really very straightforward. Of course, I'm not saying that being straightforward, you don't have to understand the basic. Some of the basics are actually very related to birth reading. In actual fact, right, if you look closely at this 紫微斗数 birth chart, you can see that within each 紫微斗数 birth chart, there are the heavenly stems and earthly branches being observed within each of the domain. We basically have the 12 domains within our birth chart. They are what we call in Chinese the 命宫. 命宫 can be translated into English as the destiny or life domain. This domain basically represents you, yourself, everything about you, your character, your personality, the potentials you have in life, etc. Followed by the parents domain. The parents domain basically will represent your parents, but in a way will also represents your upbringing, your in terms of your childhood, especially because as all of us are raised by our parents or caretakers. So in a way, caretakers can also be be shown from this parents domain. For example, some people, they don't have parents, they're raised by certain other adults within their childhood. So for people who don't have parents, the parents domain will also reflect the characteristics of the caretakers. Second, thirdly, we have the mind domain, which is called 福德宫 in Chinese. 福德宫 means, right, your 福气, 福气 means your fortune or your the karmic consequences that you inherited from your previous life, and 德 means your behavior or your the way you handle things. 德行, 德行 in Chinese means your virtue and also your actions. So basically, it is trying to tell you the results of your past karma and the tendency or the way that you may behave in this lifetime. So it will show you actually your past life conditions and also how much positive karma or how much fortune you will enjoy in this lifetime. Perhaps I will rewind a little bit. Going back to parents domain, actually the parents domain is right opposite of the body domain. All right, this is health domain, which is related to our body condition. If you look at biological science, all of us inherited the DNA of our parents, and that is why the Zi Wei Dou Shu birth chart arranged in such a way that the body or health domain is right opposite of the parents domain, because our parents gave us our body. Okay, so for example, if your parents are prone to having illnesses such as cancer, there is a very high chance for your body to respond likewise to illnesses. Usually, for example, your parents have cancer, there's a very high chance that you will also have cancer later on in life. So going back to the karma mind or the 福德宫, which I like to call it the karmic mind domain. Some people like to call it the enjoyment domain, because 福德 also refers to the positive karma that you will enjoy as a result of your previous life actions. So 福德宫 is right opposite of the wealth domain. So in a way, right, how much money you will enjoy in this lifetime is very much dependent on the positive karma you have generated in previous life. If you observe the real life society, it is really it's very unfair. You know, some people are born within a very rich family, they have rich parents, and they may inherit a lot of wealth from their parents so that they don't have to work a single day in life. But there are other people who have to slaughter, they have to struggle, they have to work extremely hard in order to make a living. So all these unfairness and all these so-called differences are actually really a result of our past life karma. So that's the reason why within the Zi Wei Dou Shu birth chart, the karmic mind domain, or what we call the enjoyment domain, is right opposite of the wealth domain. Okay, followed by the property domain right here, which we can see. All right, property domain is another domain within Zi Wei Dou Shu birth chart that can indicate the assets or property that you will have within this lifetime. For example, you want to check whether you want to buy a house, you want to check whether within a certain period of time it is positive for you to purchase your new property. This is a domain that we can look into to find out the positive or the negative consequences that we will experience when we purchase our new property. For example, this person who is a dentist, right, having a 画科 at her property domain, there are two indications. First of all is that her house will be very beautiful. And in actual fact, this client has shown me her house. This client actually stays in Melbourne. So her house is actually very large. And it's a 2-story building, very large and very beautiful house. So 画科 actually also indicates beautiful objects or people. So I would say overall it's a positive kind of construct, because 天梁 pairing with 天机 having 画科, all these are rather positive. It would mean that first of all, this person may inherit property from parents, or this person will be able to achieve property through her own cleverness or her talents. In this case, right, she has both, right? Her parents are rather well-to-do, also able to pass down to her certain property, but in her own, through her own effort and talents, she's also able to acquire her own house, which is very beautiful house. So that's how we go about using this kind of very practical methods to take a look at someone's life, and that the situation of the person's life will be revealed to you immediately. Unlike Bazi, whereby you have to take a look at the interactions of the heavenly stems, the interactions of the earthly branches, look at the 12 life stages of the interaction between the heavenly stems and the earthly branches, etc. Zi Wei Dou Shu is very straightforward. That's the reason why sometimes when clients ask me questions, for example, through live or through my consultation, I'm able to reveal to them immediately, just within a split second, what is actually happening in that person's life. So let me take a look at the comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Sai Chen, for watching. So Zi Wei Dou Shu is very easy, is very direct, very straightforward. Or perhaps I will put some reservation towards the using the word easy to describe Zi Wei Dou Shu. I mean, Zi Wei Dou Shu is very easy to learn, but very difficult to master, because as you move on further, you will have to memorize a lot of things. For example, the flying star sequence, what are the different characteristics of the stars. For example, Zi Wei star is actually an emperor star, and what kind of stars, when it is being paired with Zi Wei Dou Shu, will give you what kind of consequences. For example, Zi Wei star can actually be paired with Tan Nan. As I mentioned earlier on, Tan Nan is actually a star that is related to peach blossom, or kind of is someone that's very greedy, very ambitious. So if Zi Wei is being paired with Tan Nan, right, usually it is an indication of that person. For example, if that person is a guy, then that person may be very flirtatious, always wanting to experience new experiences in a romantic relationship. That may actually lead to marital problems. And having Zi Wei being paired with Tan Nan is also an indication of that person having very great ambition in life, always wanting to achieve great success. But sometimes, due to their over expectation, the real life results sometimes may give them disappointment. So it is very much like chemical reaction. We just have to memorize the characteristics of one star, the characteristics of another star, then mix them together, and then you'll be able to provide a very direct and straightforward prediction already. So followed by another domain within the Zi Wei Dou Shu birth chart, which is one of the most important domain, is our career domain. Especially for male genders, the career domain is very important. It is also called the Qi Shu Wei. Qi Shu Wei means throughout your life, you will be influenced greatly by this career domain. Of course, this is also true in real life situation, whereby the male genders, of course, have to focus on career development very much too, in order to earn an income to support their family and spouse. 男人最怕入错行，女人最怕嫁错郎啊。所以 in terms of Zi Wei Dou Shu reading, it is the same case, especially you are of a male gender, right? The career domain is very important. And in terms of the career domain, it will reveal to you the type of careers that are suitable for you, the type of career that will generate for you the most income, etc. And if you look at the career domain is actually right opposite of the spouse domain. Okay, so let's say, right, even in modern time, a husband is not able to have a good job, not able to achieve good income from the job that he's having. Usually, all right, I will say usually the wife or his marriage will also suffer. Okay, there's a saying that goes, 贫穷夫妻百事忧啊，贫穷夫妻百事忧的意思 is, what it means in English is that for married couples who are living in poverty, usually they will be prone to a lot of worries and anxiety. And this is really the real life kind of situation. If a husband is not able to have a good job, not able to have positive career development, obviously the wife will also be affected negatively, and the marriage will also be in jeopardy. So that is also the reason why the career domain is often situated right opposite of the spouse domain. All right, perhaps I rewind a little bit. The property domain earlier on is actually right opposite of the children's domain, because it's often the case that after purchasing property and forming a family, right, for couples, then they will be able to have children. So this is how the Zi Wei Dou Shu arrangement in terms of domain is very interesting and very insightful. Okay, so the next domain I will talk about is the friends domain. All of us, these friends in our lives, to give us to give us emotional support, moral support, or sometimes even financial support. For instance, so for example, you want to set up a business with your business partners. You want to check whether it is a good move. This is the domain that will help us a lot in terms of analysis, because if we are able to find very positive stars within the friends domain, for example, in this case, this client is a dentist. She's having a lot of positive stuff within her this friends domain. What it is trying to show us is that she is actually suitable to pair with business partners to form her company or have some kind of business venture, right? This person is actually having all these positive stars shining, right, from the opposite domain at her spouse domain. It is an indication of successful business partnership, being able to receive financial support from her friends or peers or work associates, etc. So let's take a look at Jennifer's question. Can Zi Wei Dou Shu calculate the number of houses we will have eventually? I will say it will give you a very clear picture as to how many properties you have and how many houses or the characteristics of the houses that you will own eventually. So this is another point that can be shown from Zi Wei Dou Shu birth chart reading. So we can see that the friends domain is right opposite of the siblings domain, because a lot of times, right, our siblings and our friends are very much like the same type of people who are like the kind of people who will either provide us with support or will cause us problems. So let's say you have a lot of negative stars within your friends domain, then it is also an indication that you may actually have a lot of hidden enemies. Your friends will often give you negative influence, not being helpful to you. The next domain we have is the travel domain. The travel domain is right opposite of the life domain or the destiny domain, because this is our external environment. Therefore, in terms of Zi Wei Dou Shu reading, we always have to look at the 上方四正, which are the adjacent corner and the opposite corner. Our external environment will basically influence us very much, because we are a kind of being, right? Even right now at this modern age, we are still required to get out of our house to meet people, to go to different places for learning or for working, etc. So let's take a look at Feng Shui Park. All right. No English chat. I will try to use English or software in the future, because at this moment, right, of time, all right, Zi Wei Dou Shu is not very popular for English learner, but I am bilingual, so I am able to read Chinese and read in English. But in the future, I will try to find other official aids that is written in English. So thank you very much for comment from Feng Shui Part, watching from YouTube. Which country are you from, Feng Shui Park? Thank you very much for being here. So to continue with my explanation, in terms of Zi Wei Dou Shu reading, our travel domain is also very important. For example, people like me, right? I actually have a very positive travel domain. That's the reason why throughout my life I have stayed in many different countries. I was born in Hong Kong. I've lived in Australia, lived in Thailand, lived in various different many countries, and now I'm situated in Singapore. So depending on whether your travel domain is a positive or negative one, that will actually indicate whether you are suitable to migrate. But when during certain year, right, year in our yearly trend, if we are experiencing certain negative stars falling into our travel domain, then it is very advisable for you to not travel too far. In case you will be met with accidents or injuries when you're traveling. Especially there are two stars in terms of Zi Wei Dou Shu. When paired together, will bring about unexpected accidents. They are called 廉政七杀. In Chinese, there's a saying that goes 廉政七杀路上埋尸. Means, right, if the star 廉政 and 七杀 paired together, if found within your life domain or within your travel domain, usually it would mean that you will be buried in somewhere out there that nobody knows. All right, you met with accident. In real life circumstances, in my experience of decoding charts for clients, 廉政七杀 when paired together usually indicate injuries, unexpected injuries, accidents, or illnesses suddenly occurring. sometimes these accidents may bring about a death also. So let's take a look at Feng Shui Park comments. I knew a little of it, but I can't read. Yes, so it is very important to find a teacher who can read ancient texts of the Zi Wei Dou Shu, because the gist or the really the essence of Zi Wei Dou Shu learning require you to study ancient texts. So thank you very much, Feng Shui Park, for the comments. I will try to use more English visual aids in the future for other English viewers. So the next domain we have is the health domain. As I mentioned before, we actually inherit the DNA of our parents. So our health domain is actually right opposite of the parents' domain. And through this health domain, we can actually identify what kind of illnesses we are prone to throughout our life. The next domain is the wealth domain, right? This is a domain that all of us, all right, or most, or we will say 99% of my clients are very interested in when I talk about Zi Wei Dou Shu, because in modern time, right, money is something that we can't live without. I'm not saying that money is everything in life, but it is really such a case, especially in Singapore, that without money you cannot survive because the cost of living is so high. So the money or the wealth domain is actually where you can see how much money you will be able to earn within this lifetime, or what are the channels in which you can generate your wealth. For example, you have Jumen within your wealth domain. Jumen actually represents communication or verbal speaking skills. So you have Jumen within your wealth domain. This is an indication that you will be able to achieve great wealth in careers that involve a lot of speaking or communication, for instance. As I mentioned before, the wealth domain is right opposite of the mind karmic domain. So how much you earn in this lifetime definitely in a way is influenced by your past life karma. Followed by the children's domain. Children's domain can also refers to, right, beside showing how many children you have, the characteristics of your children, they can also show the characteristics of your employees and your brainchild. What I mean by brainchild is the ideas you generate. So if you want to know if that person has a good mind, is able to express himself and come up with creative ideas, you can look at the children's domain. Additionally, if you don't have children, but you have a lot of students or employees, you can also find them, find out their characteristics or their developments in the children's domain. Followed by the spouse domain. Spouse domain is right opposite of the career domain. As I mentioned before, our career will also affect our spousal relationship. And conversely, our spouse in a way will also help us in terms of our career. Imagine if you married a spouse that is very good in financial management, and after earning your money from your career, you place your money into your spouse's hands, to you trust your spouse, and your spouse is having very good financial management skills, then you'll be able to multiply your wealth. So having a good spouse actually is very important. And in terms of boundary reading, the spouse domain is actually right below your day master. Therefore, I will say, right, our spouse is actually one of the most powerful factor that will cause a positive development or negative development in life. But we will also be able to observe the pattern or the style of marriage or the relationships that the person have. For example, if someone is having qi sha within the spouse domain, usually it is an indication of that person usually will marry suddenly. What we call the kind of they never, perhaps they just date that for a week, then suddenly they will go into marriage, all right, for various reasons. And let's say you have a star Tian Tong within your spouse domain, then it will usually indicate that your spouse or your wife or your husband, generally they will very round in shape, a little bit fat. They will like to enjoy life a lot. For instance, so take a look at Jennifer's comments. Can Zi Wei Dou Shu calculate the amount of wealth we will have eventually? Definitely. For that to be observed, you really have to take into your decade trends and yearly trends into consideration. As I've explained earlier on, the decade trends are basically the 十年大运. In Zi Wei Dou Shu, likewise, we have the 十年大运. A lot of us are born poor, but eventually, during the middle or later years in life, we become very rich. That is because the wealth domain would have to be analyzed together with the decade trends in order to see whether you become extremely wealthy. So this is another point that we all must come to a kind of proper understanding. Lastly, we have the siblings domain, right? Siblings domain basically is kind of like we are born usually, right? Besides our parents, our siblings actually another person that is very there are people that are very close to us. And if you study Zi Wei Dou Shu, even deep at a deeper level, you will know that the siblings domain is actually also indicative or representing the mother, because let's look at our parents domain, the spouse domain of the parents domain, right? Let's look at our spouse domain here. The spouse domain of the parents domain is actually of the siblings domain. Therefore, if you want to check the characteristics or the life development of your mother, then you will also look at the siblings domain. So the 30 minutes is up, all right? Just in time, I'm able to explain to you the practical use of Zi Wei Dou Shu within half an hour. So thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments, and I will be more than glad to reply and help you understand more about Zi Wei Dou Shu. Hi, Aries. Thank you very much for watching. So if anyone have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will do my best to explain to you any questions, or if you have any curious thoughts about Zi Wei Dou Shu, please feel free to ask. I will say Zi Wei Dou Shu is very interesting because each star has their personality, have their characteristics, and a tendency to behave in a certain way. For example, people who have the star Wu Qi within their birth chart, usually, generally speaking, they will take money or finances as the priority in their life. So whatever they do, right, they will always consider money first. Means, right, no money, no talk, right, to be straightforward. Whereas people who have the star G-man within their birth chart, usually they are very good in speaking, but most of the time, right, if the star G-man is being paired with negative stars, what they say may actually bring about problems into their lives. Whereas people who have the star Tiannang, right, they will have a very close affinity or 缘分 with the Buddha or Pusa, because Tiannang usually is someone who have a religious kind of interest. They will usually also like to help people and carry out charity work. And other stars such as Tiantong is a star that is always happy-go-lucky. They are rather fair. They like to enjoy life a lot. They like to eat a lot. They like to go for different kinds of indulgence or enjoyments. And whereas stars such as Qisa is very much like an army kind of general. So they can be quite rough. They can be quite aggressive, and they can be sometimes very straightforward also. So really depends on what stars are found within your birth chart. It will show you different characteristics and personality and different kinds of life developments. So I see a comment from Aneta Do. Thank you very much, Aneta Do. Long time no see. Hi, Master. Can Zi Wei Dou Shu determine whether your life will be good or bad, or can be transformed through merits and kindness? Definitely. That you really have to look at your life domain, or what we call the Ming Gong, and also your Fu De Gong. Fu De Gong is your enjoyment domain, or what I like to call the mind karmic domain, because that is where you can really see how much you can enjoy within this lifetime. For example, some people are born with the star of Hua Ji within their Fu De Gong, or the mind karmic domain, or the enjoyment domain. Hua Ji is a negativity enhanced star. And people who have this negativity enhanced star within their mind karmic domain will usually have more difficult kind of life development, more ups and downs, more obstacles throughout their life. And as I mentioned earlier on, right, if you remember, the karmic mind domain is right opposite of the wealth domain. So in a way, if you are able to find the negativity enhancer star within your enjoyment domain clashing into your wealth domain, it will also affect your wealth, causing you to be unable to save, having a more difficult time earning money, having more expenses. Like a lot of times, a lot of unexpected circumstances will take place, causing you to have no choice but to experience financial leakages. So thank you very much, Anita, for the question. Hopefully, I've been able to answer you. But overall, I will say, right, you must still observe all the domains within your birth chart to tell. Okay, because all the domains are having various kinds of relationships with one another, as I mentioned before. Okay, for instance, you want to find out how much saving you have this within this lifetime. Then you may actually, right, if you study 紫微斗数 deeper, you may actually even have to look at the siblings domain, because the siblings domain is the property domain of the wealth domain, right? Okay, let me explain this further. All right, let's look at our property domain. The property domain is counting 1, 2, 3 at the third domain. All right, from counting from the life or destiny domain， 就是呢命宫上右面数三格就是田宅宫啊。那我们在我们的财帛宫在上右面选就是数三格1、2、3，那就是兄弟宫啊。所以呢，田宅宫就是财帛宫的什么宫位？就是财帛宫的田宅宫啊，就是兄弟宫。OK， 我再说一次，兄弟宫就是田宅宫。就是财帛宫的田宅宫，因为财帛宫里数1、2、3，就是财帛宫的那个田宅宫。All right, so let me explain this in English again. If you count where is your property domain, right? From the right, okay, directing to the right, all right? The third domain, which is called property domain, all right, from the life domain, all right? It's a domain that indicates how much money or how much property or saving you will enjoy in this lifetime. And why is it that I will say the siblings domain have to be taken into consideration when you want to check whether someone is having a lot of saving? Because the wealth domain, when you count to the right, the third domain, okay, 1, 2, 3 is the siblings domain, means the siblings domain is also the property domain of the wealth domain. So that is also the reason why when you go deeper into analysis in terms of 紫微斗数, right, there are a lot of things that you have to learn in terms of the details, in terms of how the domains will overlap and give you a deeper meaning in terms of interpretation. So thank you all for watching tonight. Any last questions before I call this session? I will draw this session to a close. Hopefully, this very short introduction of 紫微斗数have been insightful and give you a brief idea and impression of what 紫微斗数is all about. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next live video. Have a good evening. Bye bye.